The neighborhood paid $87,000 because they tried to stop me from fixing my roof. I'm just an old man, 72 years young, tending to a 180-year-old home that's been in my family for 5 generations. But the HOA thought they could bully me into submission, calling the cops 3 times to halt my repairs. They didn't know I was ready for them, armed with decades of expertise and a plan that would turn their world upside down. This is the story of how one hammer-wielding senior citizen dismantled a corrupt HOA with nothing but patience and the law. It all started on a stormy Monday night in September. The kind of tempest that rips through without warning, leaving chaos in its wake. By Tuesday morning, I found 3 shingles torn from my roof, water seeping into my late wife Eleanor's knitting room. That room was sacred, her sanctuary where she'd crafted blankets for our grandkids. I couldn't let it rot. So, I grabbed my ladder, hammer, and toolbox and got to work. The sun was barely up, casting long shadows across my weathered home, built in 1844 by my great-great-grandfather. Every creak in the floorboards told a story. But my hammering at 6 a.m. apparently disturbed the peace of one particular night. I heard her before I saw her sharp heels clicking on the pavement like a metronome. Margaret Voss, the HOA president, stormed toward my house, clutching a binder like it was her lifeline. Her auburn hair was pinned tight, not a strand out of place, and her face was set in a scowl that could curdle milk. "Walter," she barked, her voice slicing through the morning air. "You can't just start construction without approval." I paused, hammer in hand, and peered down from my ladder. This woman, draped in clothes that cost more than my truck, was lecturing me about fixing my own house. "Section 12B requires pre-approval for exterior work," she snapped, waving her binder like a judge's gavel. I climbed down slowly, respecting gravity's pull at my age, and kept my tone calm. "Ma'am, I'm just patching my roof. Been doing it for 40 years. Margaret wasn't having it. Her face flushed red, a vein pulsing in her forehead. "This is a planned community, Walter. Your house is dragging our property values down by $50,000. The irony hit me hard. My home, standing tall since before the Civil War, was being judged by a woman whose mansion looked like it was built yesterday. From the corner of my eye, I saw my neighbor Susan Hayes watching, shaking her head. Susan, a 15-year resident, remembered when this neighborhood was a community, not a dictatorship. She strolled over with a steaming mug of coffee, her expression a mix of sympathy and disgust. "Ignore Margaret," she said. "She's been insufferable since she took over the HOA." I took the coffee gratefully, its warmth a stark contrast to Margaret's icy demeanor. But Margaret wasn't done. She flipped through her binder with the fervor of a prosecutor, quoting rules like scripture. Section 15A, construction only between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. weekdays. I glanced at her house, a sprawling monstrosity with a new pool house, an extended garage, and a second-story addition that screamed unreported wealth. "Ma'am," I said, voice steady, "I know a thing or two about permits." Something flickered in her eyes, Gil. Maybe she masked it with more bluster. "This isn't about permits, Walter. It's about standards." She spun on her heel and marched off, yelling, "I'm calling the police." Susan leaned against my fence, studying me. "Walter, I worked 30 years in the county tax office," she said, her tone heavy with implication. "I've seen every trick in the book, people hiding renovations to dodge taxes." I nodded, already piecing together a plan. "What kind of work?" I asked. "Property assessments," she replied, a sly smile creeping in. "I can spot unreported improvements from a mile away." True to her word, Margaret called the cops within the hour. A patrol car rolled up, and a young officer, badge reading Officer Lopez, stepped out, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Sir, we got a complaint about unauthorized construction," he said, eyeing the storm damage on my roof. I explained the situation, pointing to the hole where water threatened Eleanor's room. Lopez glanced at Margaret, who hovered in her doorway like a vulture. "Ma'am," he called, "this is standard storm repair. HOA approval isn't legally required." Margaret's face turned crimson, her binder clutched tighter. "But he didn't follow regulations," she shrieked. Lopez sighed. "HOA rules are civil, not criminal. Take it to your board or court." As he drove off, I knew Margaret wouldn't stop. But neither would I. 3 days later, I was back on my ladder at 6 a.m., nailing shingles with the rhythm of a man who'd done this for decades. The police returned, this time with Officer Carter, who looked more serious. "Sir, another complaint noise and possible code violations," he said. I climbed down, wiping my hands. "Officer, I'm fixing storm damage during reasonable hours. Is that illegal?" Carter shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Margaret, who stood smugly in her doorway. "No, sir, it's not," he admitted. "But we have to document disputes." He scribbled in his notebook, then told Margaret, "HOA rules aren't our jurisdiction." She stormed inside, probably plotting her next move. That evening, I sat on my porch with my laptop, researching permits. What I found was gold. Margaret's house was a treasure trove of unreported upgrades. Susan stopped by, 2 coffees in hand. "Find anything?" she asked, smirking. "Let's just say Margaret's not the only one bending the rules," I replied. A week later, Margaret upped the ante. 2 patrol cars arrived, Officers Reed and Bailey stepping out with grim determination. "Sir, we're here about a safety hazard and unauthorized work," Reed said. I invited them inside, offering coffee. "Before you inspect, let me show you something," I said, leading them to my living room. Old photos lined the mantel. Me ancestors, tools in hand, building this house. "This place survived wars, depressions, storms," I told them. "Never needed approval to fix a leak." Reed nodded, impressed. I dropped my bombshell. "Did Margaret get permits for her pool house? Her garage?" "That's second story." They exchanged glances, unsure. "That's not our investigation," Bailey said, but I saw doubt in their eyes. Reed warned me a third complaint would mean a citation, but I shook his hand. "You're just doing your job." That night, Susan and I dug deeper. Public records revealed a neighborhood-wide scam: pool houses, additions, basements, all unreported. "This is tax fraud on a massive scale," Susan whispered, stunned. I estimated $200,000 in hidden value, with Margaret's mansion alone worth $100,000 in upgrades. "What happens if the tax office knows?" I asked. Susan's grin was fierce. "Back taxes, penalties, interest, tens of thousands per house." I began drafting a complaint, documenting every improvement with photos, estimates, and utility spikes. Susan reviewed it, nodding. "This'll trigger a full investigation." A week later, Margaret made her final mistake. 2 cops arrived, responding to her absurd claim that my walkway's solar lights were disturbing the peace. Officer Lopez looked skeptical, but his radio crackled with urgent news. After a hushed call, he turned to Margaret. "Ma'am, we can't interfere with a federal tax investigation." Her face went white. "What investigation?" she stammered. Lopez shrugged. "Contact the tax office." As the cars left, Margaret stood frozen, her world crumbling. Tax notices hit mailboxes like bombs. Families owed thousands. $22,000 for a pool, $28,000 for a basement. Margaret's bill was the knockout punch. $52,000 for her pool house, garage, and second-story addition. Her mansion, once a $300,000 ranch, was now a $600,000 tax nightmare. She appeared at my door, a broken woman, hair disheveled, eyes red. "Walter, I know you did this," she begged. "I'll drop the violations, resign, leave, just stop it." I leaned back, calm. "Margaret, I've been fixing my roof. Haven't had time for anything else." But she wouldn't let go. "How did you know?" she croaked. I smiled. "Margaret, I worked 40 years in construction for the tax assessment office." Her jaw dropped. "I can spot unreported upgrades in my sleep. Your pool house? $40,000. Second story? $60,000. I knew you were dodging taxes the moment I saw your house." The truth hit her like a freight train. She'd harassed a man who'd spent decades mastering the system she exploited. "You assumed I was just an old carpenter," I said. "But I built and assessed houses. I know tax law better than you know your own rules." Margaret fled the neighborhood within a month, selling her mansion at a loss to cover her debt. The HOA collapsed, and peace returned. My roof stood strong, a testament to my family's legacy. The neighborhood paid $125,000 in taxes, but justice was priceless. Never underestimate an old man who knows the system.